It started as just another routine day at Ridgefield Community Health. The air was sterile, the scent of antiseptic lingering faintly in the brightly lit hallways. I walked into exam room 3, tablet in hand, ready to prep the patient for a follow-up. Checkup. My name is Rachel. I'm 29, a registered nurse, and I've worked in this clinic for nearly 5 years. I've seen everything from minor allergic reactions to full-blown emergencies. But that morning, something felt different. The patient was Mr. Dalton, a 54-year-old man I'd met a few times over the past year. He came in regularly after a minor cardiac episode. Quiet, soft-spoken, always polite. But today, the moment I entered the room, I could sense a strange energy in the air. He was already seated on the exam table, back upright, draped in the standard cotton gown. His hands were clenched in his lap, and when he looked at me, his eyes didn't quite meet mine. "Good morning, Mr. Dalton," I greeted, trying to sound upbeat. "How are you feeling today?" "Just a bit tired," he replied, voice soft. Almost too quiet. As I set about checking his vitals and preparing the monitor, I noticed his gaze kept shifting first to the floor, then the monitor, never resting. Long on anything. I busied myself with the prep, focused, professional. But as I reached to adjust the blanket covering his legs, the gown shifted, just slightly, unintentionally. I looked away instantly, heat rushing to my cheeks. "Focus, Rachel," I told myself silently. "You've been trained for this." Trying not to make it awkward, I kept my movements clinical and composed. But then, just as I moved to reposition one of the leads, the gown slipped lower than expected. I caught my breath and turned away quickly. "I'm so sorry," I said, quickly grabbing the blanket to adjust it. He seemed flustered too, muttering an apology under his breath. We both pretended it hadn't happened. Then the door creaked open. Behind me. "Oops, sorry, didn't realize someone was in here," said Leah, a fellow nurse, peeking in. She caught a glimpse of the scene and quietly excused herself. The tension tightened in the air like a string being pulled. Mr. Dalton avoided eye contact, his cheeks flushed. I tried to finish the prep swiftly, my hands slightly trembling. Then, as I turned to reach for fresh linens, I felt something lightly brush my hand. It was his. Was it accidental? Maybe. But it stayed there a beat too long, just long enough to make me second guess. I pulled my hand away gently and continued the checkup without a word. The energy in the room had shifted, quiet, tense, heavy. Just then, Dr. Nair walked in, clipboard in hand, smiling as always. "Everything okay in here?" "Yes, all set," I replied quickly, stepping back from the exam table. I left the room fast, my pulse still elevated. Back at the nurse's station, I tried to dismiss it all as a weird fluke. But later that afternoon, a notification popped up on my clinic tablet. "Patient Dalton has requested Nurse Rachel for tomorrow's follow-up." Why me? It echoed in my mind the rest of the evening. That night, I replayed every second of the encounter, his awkward glances, the slip of the gown, the hand. And worse, how I had said nothing, how I hadn't immediately corrected the boundary. The next morning, I woke up early but felt the weight of unease pressing down on my chest. I stood in front of the mirror a little longer than usual, tying my ponytail tighter, choosing a more structured scrub top, something that made me feel less vulnerable. I wasn't scared, not exactly, but I was on high alert. I knew I had to be clear and firm with Mr. Dalton. No room for ambiguity. At exactly 10:10 a.m., my tablet buzzed again. "Patient Dalton is in exam room 4. He's asked for you." For a split second, I considered asking someone to switch with me. But no, I needed to handle this directly. I knocked once and stepped in, clipboard in hand. "Good morning," I said, in my most neutral tone. He was already on the table, dressed in the clinic gown, his expression unreadable. but his posture was relaxed this time, too relaxed. His legs swung lightly, and his hands were folded neatly in his lap. His eyes found mine, and there was something new in them, something unsettlingly self-assured. "I was hoping it would be you," he said. I ignored the comment. "Let's get started with your vitals." As I moved around him with clinical precision, I made sure not to let our hands or eyes linger. I attached the blood pressure cuff, recorded his oxygen levels, all while avoiding any unnecessary words. Then, just as I logged the results, he spoke again, low, quiet, deliberate. I thought, "About you last night." I froze for just a heartbeat before answering. "Mr. Dalton, I'm here to provide medical care. I need to remind you that personal comments during appointments are inappropriate." He didn't flinch. In fact, he smiled faintly. "I figured you'd say that." That's when the door opened. Again, I turned, hoping for Dr. Nair or another nurse, but instead, a woman walked in. Early 40s, elegant, professional. Her blazer was tailored perfectly, and she carried herself like someone who didn't need to speak to command attention. Her eyes landed on me first brief, cool then on Mr. Dalton. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything," she said with a voice like ice. He blinked, caught off guard. "No, not at all. I was just finishing up," I said quickly. "I'll leave you two for a moment." I didn't wait for a reply. I walked out, keeping my stride calm, but my heart was pounding. That had to be his wife, back at my station. I tried to bury myself in paperwork, but I couldn't stop thinking about her expression. She knew, or at least suspected. The way her eyes darted between us like she was gathering data connecting dots I didn't want drawn. Then, as if the day couldn't spiral more, another message popped up. "Patient Dalton has again requested Nurse Rachel for tomorrow's appointment." No, that was it. I walked straight to Rebecca, the shift coordinator. "Can someone else take Mr. Dalton's follow-up tomorrow?" I asked quietly. "He's made me uncomfortable." She frowned. "Do you want me to escalate this?" "Not yet. Just ... a switch would help." She nodded. "We're short, but I'll see what I can do." But the next morning, when I scanned the assignment board, my name was still there. Room 4, Mr. Dalton. I took a long breath, squared my shoulders, and promised myself this would be the end of it. When I entered the room, he wasn't lounging like before. He sat stiffly, facing the window. I stayed near the door. "I need to speak." "With you," he said without turning. "I'm here to help with your care," I replied evenly. "If this is about anything outside that scope, you'll need to contact administration." He turned slowly. "You don't have to pretend." "You felt it too." A chill ran down my spine. "I think you've misunderstood," I said firmly. There was no moment. Nothing happened. His voice dropped. "But you didn't stop it. Not the first time." I stepped back. "This conversation is over." And then the door creaked open again. She was back. His wife. Her eyes swept over both of us, pausing like she was taking inventory. "What's going on here?" she asked, her tone cold and cutting. "I was just leaving," I said, brushing past them without another word.